Imagine this. You have worked for years. You have sacrificed sleep, comfort, certainty. You have endured the doubt, your own and everyone else's. And then, one day, the door opens. The opportunity arrives. The moment you have been waiting for, it is finally here. And then, something happens. You don't walk through the door. You freeze. You delay. You find a reason to wait. You make a decision that seems logical in the moment, but quietly, invisibly, destroys everything you built. This is not a story about failure. This is a story about something far more mysterious and far more common. This is the story of what happens to human beings at the very edge of success, when the finish line is in sight and they stop running. Before we go deeper, if you're new here, this channel exists for one reason: to decode the hidden patterns of human behavior that no one talks about. If that's what you're looking for, subscribe now. Because what comes next in this video, most people will never hear. Researchers at Harvard, Stanford, and the Max Planck Institute have studied this phenomenon for decades. They have given it a name, they have mapped its neurological roots, and they have discovered something that the ancient Stoics, the Sufi masters, and the philosophers of the East already knew, centuries before modern science was born. Today, we decode it. This is the self-sabotage code, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here is what makes this so strange. Self-sabotage does not happen at the beginning. It does not strike when you are struggling, when everything feels impossible, when the distance to your goal seems infinite. It strikes at the edge, when the distance is small, when the goal is almost visible, when the work is nearly done. Psychologists call this phenomenon behavioral self-handicapping, a pattern in which human beings unconsciously create obstacles to their own success. Not because they are lazy, not because they lack talent, but because some deeper, ancient part of their brain perceives success not as a reward, but as a threat. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals with high achievement drive were paradoxically more susceptible to self-handicapping behaviors, particularly when they were closest to their goals. The pattern showed up across cultures, income levels, educational backgrounds, and age groups. The researchers were perplexed. The subjects were not failing because they couldn't succeed. They were failing because, on some level, they wouldn't. Why? To answer that, we have to go somewhere modern psychology alone cannot take us. We have to go deeper, into the architecture of the human mind. The human brain is not designed to maximize your happiness. It is designed to maximize your survival. And here is the critical distinction. Survival, to the brain, does not mean thriving. It means predictability, familiarity, the known. Neuroscientists at UCLA have demonstrated that the brain's limbic system, specifically a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala, cannot distinguish between physical danger and psychological unfamiliarity. When you approach a new version of yourself, a more successful version, a more visible version, a more powerful version, the amygdala fires as if you are walking toward a threat. This is not a metaphor. Under functional MRI scanning, the brains of individuals who were about to make a major life advancement showed the same stress response patterns as those exposed to genuine danger signals. The heart rate accelerated. Cortisol levels spiked. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational decision-making, was partially suppressed. In other words, at the moment when you most need clear thinking, your brain chemically impairs your ability to think clearly. Dr. Gay Hendricks at Stanford first articulated what he called the upper limit problem, a psychological thermostat theory. Every human being, he observed, has an internal set point for how much success, happiness, or achievement feels tolerable. When we exceed that set point, when life starts to feel too good, too successful, too expansive, an unconscious mechanism activates to bring us back to the familiar temperature. We pick a fight with the person we love most. We procrastinate on the crucial task. We get sick on the day of the important meeting. We make a financial decision that seems reasonable, but quietly unravels everything. None of this is conscious. That is precisely what makes it so powerful and so dangerous. Researchers at the University of Toronto further identified a concept they called identity threat response. The premise is this: your identity is not just who you are. It is a survival structure. Your brain has built a model of who you are, what level of success you deserve, what kind of life is appropriate for someone like you. When the external reality begins to exceed that internal model, when success starts arriving in amounts your identity cannot process, the brain experiences what scientists describe as cognitive dissonance at the identity level. And it resolves that dissonance the fastest way it knows how: by destroying the threat, by destroying the success. Now here is what is remarkable. Long before brain scanners, long before psychological journals, long before the word neuroscience existed, the great thinkers of the ancient world had already mapped this territory. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born a slave and became one of the most revered minds in history, wrote in the 2nd century, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate within yourself what you cannot control from what you can." But beneath that teaching was a deeper observation, that most human suffering does not come from the world. It comes from the stories we tell about what we deserve. Epictetus watched his fellow human beings sabotage their freedom, their peace, their potential, not because life denied it to them, but because their inner self could not accept it. The Sufi tradition spoke of a concept the mystics called nafs, the self, or more precisely, the lower self. The nafs was described not as an enemy, but as a deeply conditioned pattern within the human soul, a pattern shaped by fear, by habit, by the desire for the familiar. The Sufi masters taught that the nafs resists transformation most powerfully when transformation is closest, because that is precisely when it feels most threatened. Rumi wrote of a bird that had been in a cage so long, it no longer recognized the open door as freedom. It recognized it as danger, and so it stayed. And in the Buddhist tradition, the concept of attachment, not merely to pleasure, but to a fixed sense of self, was identified as the root cause of what we might today call self-sabotage. The teaching was precise. The ego does not fear failure. The ego fears dissolution. It fears the unknown shape of a self that has changed. When success requires you to become someone different, to shed an old identity, to step into an unfamiliar version of yourself, the ego experiences it as a kind of death, and it will do almost anything to prevent that death. 3,000 years, 3 traditions, 1 conclusion. The greatest enemy of your potential does not live outside you. It lives inside, and it waits until the very last moment. Now let's make this concrete. Because self-sabotage is not always dramatic. It rarely announces itself. It arrives disguised as logic. Pattern 1. Sudden perfectionism. Everything was moving. Then, at the final stage, the project is never quite ready. There is always one more revision, one more thing to fix. The perfectionism feels responsible. It is, in fact, a delay mechanism, a way of keeping success perpetually in the future where it feels safe. Pattern 2. Relationship destruction. Research published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that individuals who experienced sudden professional advancement were statistically more likely to introduce conflict into their close relationships within the following weeks. Not because the relationships had problems, but because the brain unconsciously sought to create emotional chaos to match the discomfort of change. Pattern 3. The sudden crisis. Health problems, financial emergencies, family dramas, appearing with suspicious timing precisely when a breakthrough is near. Sometimes these are genuine. Sometimes they are generated unconsciously from within. Pattern 4. Distraction overload. The sudden urgency of everything else, the inbox that cannot wait, the side project that demands attention, the meeting that could have been an email. When the important thing approaches, the unimportant thing becomes irresistible. If you have recognized yourself in any of these patterns, that recognition is not a judgment. It is the first crack of light. So how do you break it? Research from MIT's Sloan School of Management, alongside studies from Johns Hopkins University, converges on a set of principles that the ancient traditions had already encoded in practice. The first principle is recognition without judgment. The Stoic practice of evening reflection, reviewing the day's actions not with guilt, but with honest observation, is neurologically sound. Neuroscientists confirm that the act of naming an unconscious pattern moves it from the limbic system into the prefrontal cortex. Naming it, literally, gives you power over it. The ancient Sufi practice of muhasaba, self-accounting, operated on the same principle centuries earlier. The second principle is identity expansion, not behavior change. This is the most counterintuitive insight from modern psychology. Trying to change a behavior without changing the underlying identity is like cutting weeds without pulling roots. They grow back. The work is not to force yourself to act differently. The work is to slowly, carefully, expand your internal image of what you are capable of, what you deserve, who you are. James Clear at the University of Michigan, whose research into habit formation was later validated by behavioral studies at Cornell, found that the single strongest predictor of lasting change was the sentence a person used to describe themselves, not the goal they set, the identity they claimed. The third principle is discomfort tolerance. Every tradition, Stoic, Buddhist, Sufi, trained its students not to avoid discomfort, but to sit with it, to feel the unfamiliarity of expansion and not run from it. Modern neuroscience calls this window of tolerance training. The brain, when exposed repeatedly to manageable doses of unfamiliar positive experience, gradually recalibrates its threat response. The new territory stops feeling dangerous. It starts feeling like home. And the fourth principle is witness consciousness, the ability to observe yourself in motion. Not to stop yourself, not to judge yourself, simply to watch. The ancient Stoic Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, kept a private journal, not for publication, but for observation. He watched his own mind with the detachment of a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. In that watching, he found the power to choose differently. You cannot choose what you cannot see. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not unlucky. You are human, running on an ancient operating system that was built for survival in a world that no longer exists. A system that treats your own expansion as a threat. A system that fights hardest when you are closest to the life you were meant to live. But now you have seen it, and what you can see, you can change. The cage is not locked from the outside. It never was. This has been the Human MasterCode. If this reached something in you, share it with someone who needs to see it. And in the next episode, we go deeper.